Talk.
Hey, what's up, HCR fam? It's B Plus, and welcome back to the Be Positive Music Show. As I promised in our intro, we have a special guest today. But before we get into that, let me get you guys caught up to speed with what you heard during our first quarter set. And again, I was highlighting that dope article that the Grammys wrote on what they call trap gospel. We call it Christian hip hop. So the three songs that I chose to play honoring that article was Wande, and the name of that song was In the Light. The next song that I played was Walking in Peace by Alex Jean or Alex John. I actually don't know the correct way to pronounce his last name. So forgive me, brother, if I'm saying your name wrong. And then number 3, I played Big Breeze, his song entitled Peachtree from the 116 playlist from a few years back. So with that being said, it's time to welcome my special guest for today's show. I'm pretty excited about it just because I don't live, but I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. I don't care what Elon Musk says. So I get a lot of my content from there. So this particular brother dropped actually on Valentine's Day, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But this is our brother JusRzd. A lot of you guys may know him from songs like one of my personal favorites is Far From Home. He has songs like Rise and Shine with Miss Darrell. He has a really, really dope one called Too Soon with Ruslan. And he does a bunch of stuff with TLS. JusRzd, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me, bro.
Yeah, man. It's as I said a few seconds ago, on Valentine's Day, when everybody else was with their special loved ones 10 days ago, JusRzd was shooting out this tweet. I'm gonna let you guys hear or let you guys see what this tweet is. For my radio listeners, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just read this for you guys really quick. So it says, is there space for grown hip hop / R&B in the CHH / Christian R&B, or does it have to be Jesus, scriptures, and encouragement? So that was the message by JusRzd, and it just really resonated with me. So JusRzd, unpack that a little bit for us.
So I just, it's funny that that was on Valentine's Day because that wasn't even planned. I was just, the thought came across my mind. I was like, it sounded like this would be an interesting tweet. So then I tweeted because I'm not really that versed on Twitter. Like I'm kind of new to Twitter. I think I just started, like I've always had a Twitter, but I never really used it until like last year. And it's pretty much because of TLS. If it wasn't for TLS, I probably wouldn't be on Twitter. So shout out to them. Shout out to Mitch and shout out to Q. Or Q Flow. So I just had the thought because it was a lot of, I know there's a lot of artists in CHH that do more grown topics in hip hop or do more grown topics in their music, like just walking through life and just the journey of life and just different topical things when it comes to living life as a human being, whether Christian or not. And it's always interesting to me because it seems like in CHH, there's only platforms. You only get pushed by platforms if you're either super youth groupy in your approach, or, and by youth groupie I mean like Jump for Jesus type of records, or if you're super lyrically scriptural. And it's just like if you don't fall in those two categories, it's just like, yeah, we not really promoting you like that on different platforms. Now that you do have some platforms that do look out for the indie artists, and as long as you have a faith-centered message or a faith message from a faith-based perspective, they will promote your stuff. But it just seems like the bigger promo goes to either super youth groupie or super lyrically scriptural type of raps, and it's just like there's nothing wrong with either of those raps, but it's a little disheartening for those who don't fall in those categories. To just continue to make good art if they want to stay in the CHH space, because it doesn't seem to have that big of a platform, if that makes sense. It's not pushed or promoted by different platforms in CHH. And that could be because there's not too many platforms in CHH like that. But it kind of, it's just a little disheartening from an artistic or an artist point of view.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why that tweet kind of gripped me, and we got a lot of good responses. I particularly like DJ Lost and Found had a good response. I even saw that Chad Horton hopped in, the owner of Rapzilla. He hopped in and was trying to clarify some of the questions, and a couple other artists were kind of doing the same thing. And for me, it completely resonated, and I was like, man, I have to get JusRzd in here. For a halftime pep talk, just to kind of flesh this out a little bit more, because it can be triggering for people who do make music that is more geared towards just like the body, and they can feel like, well, are you saying my music isn't real? But I don't think that that's the case, and I feel like, and I shot you a message, or not a message, but I sent you a message of a video when I was talking to Seven from Adam, just talking about, in particular, I call it the 4 E's of Christian hip hop. You have music that is going to evangelize, reach the lost. You're going to have music that is going to edify, which is going to build up the body. Then you have the third E, which is I'm losing it. I lost it.
The third E was no, that was the final E. What was the third E?
Well, I know the final one is educate.
Educate. That's what it was.
Yeah, so you can educate people on just like a variety of things in life. Even if you may not agree with what they're trying to educate you on, you should have that freedom to go ahead and do that. And then lastly, to entertain. You should be able to make Christian hip hop music that is just fun. And I know Mitch Durrell is a big proponent of promoting fun rap music. So those are my 4 E's. So that's why what you said kind of resonated, because I feel like a lot of times, even among fans, they feel like if your music isn't doing evangelism, or if it's not actually edifying the body, then there's no need for it. And I feel like the older and older artists get, they really realize that, like, hey, real life happens. And you made a comment about it being art. Now let's unpack that a little bit. So Christian hip hop, is it art or is it not, in your opinion?
To me, it all depends on who's creating it. Some people are more ministerial in their focus, and then other people are more artistic in their focus, and neither approach is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's part of the problem when it comes to Christian hip hop specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It's very black and white, and it's very dogmatic.
Yeah.
It's like there's no nuance, there's no gray, there's no middle. It's either you're going to be artistic and you should be all the way artistic, and that's how you should approach your art, or you should be super ministerial in your approach because it's souls over streams and it's God always and it's all these different things. No shots to anybody. This is the first thing that came to my head. But it's like life isn't in both of those two extremes. So it's just like, we need God and we need art. So it's just like, there is room for a middle ground. There is room for people to be more artistic focused, and that's okay. And there's room for people to be more ministerial focused, and that's okay. They're both needed. They're not oppositions. Yeah. They're both needed, and they're both needed to. I love your concept of the 4 E's, but I feel like they're both needed to accomplish those 4 E's: to educate, to entertain, to edify, and to evangelize. We gonna need the art, because the art has to be good. Yeah. Let's keep it a buck. It has to be good in order to penetrate the listener. And it's just like, if it's not good, people gonna turn it off. They're not gonna listen to the song. As much as people want to try to present mediocre art and then stamp Jesus on it and act like it's cool, it's not. It has to at least be good, whether it's ministerial or whether it's artistic.
Right. Because I feel like, even like for the ministerial rap, they're still like, even if it's to minister as their complete focus, there's still an art of rapping that needs to be like done well for the listener to want to stick around. So we're not, or at least I'm not saying, I think you're not saying that if you're doing the ministerial approach, you don't understand the artistic ability to rap. We're not saying that. We're just saying that there's in the storytelling, like the ministerial approach, they may just quote a scripture, but somebody on the more artistic side, like No Big Deal is really, really good at it, of saying, he's basically quoting a scripture, but you really don't know, but you're hearing the heart of the scripture, you're hearing the heart of God's message, you're hearing the heart of the gospel, but it's just not A, B, C. This is what you do. So I want to make sure that I'm being careful, and because I know we talked about this offline, that we want to make sure that we're not wanting to tell somebody, well, we say we want more mature Christian hip hop. People can get triggered and say like, so my music is immature. It's like, no, we're not saying like immature doesn't mean like juvenile. It just means that it kind of is what it is.
It's surface. There's no depth to it, and that's okay. Even if that is a description of your art, that's okay. Like, it's needed. Somebody is going to need a Jump for Jesus youth groupie type of record.
You gotta have it.
That's fine.
It saved me, literally.
It's important. Who else is going to perform for the youth groups? Like, we need. I am not even throwing shade or anything like that. Me personally, I can perform for youth groups, and I could be out here jumping on stages and stuff like that. I choose not to, because that's not the focus of why I do music or why I create art. You know what I mean? And that's okay. That's okay. I started out doing youth groupie type of music, and it wasn't a focus. We just wanted to have fun at that time, and that's just what we did. And I was in a group, and that's how we got down. We was kind of big in our area, and then the group kind of fell apart just because life kind of pulled us in different areas, and it was just like, all right. And so now refocusing and getting back into music, doing it by myself, and it's just like God has opened doors in different avenues and different ways that I didn't even know was possible, nor did I even think would happen. And it's just like all because of the direction He's taking me in music. And that's the part people have to be honest with themselves and like really see God on, like, what one did He call you to music? Because it's a lot of people out here doing music that ain't really called, nor have a true gifting in music. And it's just like, you gotta be real with yourself. Like, not everybody has to be an artist. Not everybody has to rap. Not everybody has to sing. You can do other stuff. You can be gifted in business and go into having music business as your career. You could be gifted in management and manage an artist. It's a lot of different areas. You could be gifted in law and work the music business from the law perspective. Like, it's a lot of different areas and avenues that we need people to be in. We don't need everybody to be an artist. Like, it's some producers I know that are fire at making beats. Started out trying to rap on the same beats that they were making, and it's just like, your gift wasn't never rapping. It was never rapping. Your gift was actually producing, and you ended up finding that, and now you're a beast of a producer. And you have a lot under your resume and your catalog and stuff, and it's just like, it just goes to show you not everybody that's called to the art form of music is necessarily called to be a rapper or a singer. So you got to find out your calling and your gifting and your direction, and you got to see God for that. And it's okay wherever He directs you in that area. And it's okay to not be a rapper. It's okay to not be a singer. It's okay to not be an artist. It's way too many other areas. There's way too many other areas that are important.
I've heard people say that before, but not as clear and concise as you just put it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break. A quick side note, Holy Culture Radio, we have a show called Wait or Wait every single Wednesday at noon. And just so you guys know, back in December, JusRzd has a song called Cycles. It won the Wait or Wait versus. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop and play that song really quickly, and we'll come right back with some more conversation. This is the Be Positive Music Show right here on SiriusXM channel 140, and we will be right back.
Days gone, the night falls. I should have known better than to try fall. Trying to bring change to my life, so gotta break the chains of these cycles. I should have known better than to try fall.
Welcome back, Holy Culture fam. It's B+. I'm hanging out with JusRzd. I have him on the show for an extended halftime pep talk. We are talking about making space for grown-up Christian hip hop. This is a very near and dear topic to me. As we talked about my 4 E's, and about a year and a half ago, I had a whole segment talking about adult contemporary Christian hip hop. I kind of stole that phrase from Pusha T because he was on the interview talking about his album at that time. and talking about how his music is more adult now. He's not going to be rapping about drugs and things like that because he's just kind of grown up and kind of matured. So I feel like in the same way in Christian hip hop, there's a shift in that same way. And I feel like a lot of my personal favorite artists like Sho Baraka, Swoop, Taylor Gray, Propaganda, they're rapping about things that I'm going through in life. They're rapping about kids and marriage and those type of things. And a lot of times younger artists, they just don't have that history. So I feel like I'm talking long, but I just kind of want to set up this conversation that I want to have about pivoting in Christian hip hop. Now, some artists start off young in their faith, super zealous, and as they live life and things happen, they pivot. And that can cause and ruffle a lot of feathers. And we talked about this a little bit before camera. So talk to us a little bit about the need for pivoting for some Christian hip hop artists.
I feel like the need for pivoting is whether it's for, well, I'll just stick with artists. The need for pivoting it's important. I've seen it from many different facets when it comes to, because I follow a lot of different comedians and just different people outside of just a musical space.
Yeah.
I've seen people like Rusan pivot. Now he's a full-time YouTuber and he's just now starting to drop music again, and the music is fire. Like, he still hasn't lost that gift, but for a season he was just strictly doing YouTube, and he's still just mainly doing YouTube and dropping music here and there, but the music's still hitting. And I see people like Kev on Stage when he pivoted. Now he has his own studio. Like, that's wild. Like, and it's so many other people. Whether you talk secular or whether you talk CHH, I seen my homie Bartholomew Jones. He started out as a teacher, just doing music on the side. Now he owns his own coffee business, Coffee Black. And the coffee's actually good. I don't even like coffee, and I can drink coffee black. So it's like, the coffee's good, the music is solid. Like, that's my musical twin. That's my brother. I love him and his wife. Shout out to them. Shout out to Coffee Black. Shout out to Memphis. Yes, but yeah, it's so many people that I've seen pivot. Sho Baraka. It's so many people, and he belief, and that was the low key before he kind of left music. Like, I know he still drops music for like his Patreon and stuff like that. But before he like left music officially, that was my favorite rapper. Believe was my favorite rapper because he was cold.
Yeah.
And he still be rapping. It's just like I said, he just mostly does it for his Patreon. But yeah, he pivoted into Belief and Fatherhood and took off. And it's just like, it was a space that was needed. So I feel like the pivot it's important. It's important to seek God's direction on it and to move when he says move. Because sometimes I know for me, I can have a tendency to tiptoe when he says move, or sometimes just not move when he says move, because we're waiting on confirmation. But really we scared. Because like I don't really have what I see these other people having, and it's just like, that's not what God is asking for me. He's not asking for you to have what you see other people have. He's just asking you to take a step forward. And so it's just like, the pivot is necessary, but it has to be God directing you in the pivot, because anybody can pivot, but if there's no purpose behind your pivot, are you really going to be standing on something, or are you going to be on faulty ground or on shaky ground and end up missing the step? Go ahead.
That really brings up a good point, because from a fan's perspective, when they hear an artist come out and say that, hey, my music is going to be sounding different going forward, and I specifically remember Derek Minor about a year ago saying that he's like kind of making a pivot. My next album's going to sound different. And immediately fans were saying like, oh, he about to start cussing this music. Oh, he about to start doing this. Yep, he about to. And they start automatically comparing, because a lot of artists say that. I mean, we have a long line of artists that have left Christian hip hop. I mean, shout out Paul Russell. He pivoted, and that dude is literally killing it. That dude has been on Macy's Day Parade. He's been on the New York, was it the ball drop? He's literally been everywhere. He has like I don't play video games, but I think he's on Fortnite now.
If I'm not mistaken. I don't be on Fortnite like that, but my son be on Fortnite. So if I'm not mistaken, the song is on Fortnite. Yeah.
It's
and what's funny about Paul Russell specifically, that's the same thing with Xavier Omar, aka FKA Spazzy Rockets.
Yeah.
Their content never changed. They've been making the same content the whole time.
Yep.
Their content hasn't changed. I'm not going to try to cater this to a Christian market anymore. I'm just going to make the art that I've been making and see where God takes it. And he's elevated them both in areas that nobody in CHH would have ever been able to do.
Right.
And that's okay. Because guess what? It ain't for everybody.
Right. And
the space isn't for everybody.
And it's two things I want to bring up on that. It's funny you bring up Xavier Omar, but the other point I want to bring up really quickly is that is where I was getting at before I went down a rabbit trail because of ADD. But like a lot of times when people pivot, they automatically assume that like, oh, they're going to go down that road of fill in the blank artists that pivoted and then soon left the faith. So their mind says pivot, leaving faith. It's like no, pivot, not doing Christian music, but still doing this, literally like you said, the same type of music. But just not feel like I have to like sprinkle in the Jesus song every now and then. I'm just gonna make dope R&B music. And it's funny you mentioned Xavier Omar. Like, I live in the DFW area. We go to the same church. See that brother 3 out of 4 weeks. Like he's always in church. It's not like he left the faith because he's making R&B music. And it was like it's funny. The first time I pulled up to the church, I literally got out my car and I stepped out and I saw him getting his wife and kids out the car. And I was like, I stepped my foot back in and was like, I'm tripping.
I know that's not who I think it is.
I was just like, snap, like, okay. And that was my first Sunday going there. So it's like, pivot doesn't mean you're leaving the faith, even though we know some people who pivoted and left the faith. But if we want to keep it a buck, we have people who stuck to Jesus raps their entire career and they denounced the faith.
Right, that part.
So it's like, you
can't blame the pivot on that one. You can't blame the pivot on that one.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can't. I mean, just keep it a buck. You can't blame the pivot on that one. It's a couple people I know that have left the faith, and I'm not even just talking about in Christian hip hop. It's unfortunately CCM artists who quietly have left the faith and still doing Christian music. Some of them still do Christian music. That's the crazy part. Yeah. But they're not believing what they putting out. So it's just like, would you prefer that? Or would you prefer them to be like, I'ma just make my exit here. I ain't even gotta worry about that. And then you got some people who pivot into the secular lane, but don't change anything about how they go about presenting their art.
Yeah.
So it's just like that's like Xavier Omar to me is a perfect example because that to me, him and Sean C. Johnson were like two big musical male vocalists that influenced me, and I could probably throw Christian Grey in there too.
Yep.
That influenced me as far as like just doing more soulful type of records and like the way they stack their harmonies and just go about approaching records. And it's just like, bruh, he's been making the same type of music since I found out who Spazzy Rocket was. Like, I remember the first EP I heard from him was with him and Sango. And I think it was called How Do You Love Me? I was like, yo, this is fire. Why aren't more people talking about him? But it's because he wasn't making youth groupie type of music. He was making more like music about love and relationships. And he still does that to this day. Hasn't changed. Still a Christian. Hasn't walked away from the faith. Like you said, y'all go to the same church. Like, what are we talking about? Like, you don't have to just be specifically boxing yourself into a Christian space in order to, one, be effective, or two, have a career in music. And it doesn't mean that you're compromising, one, your faith, or compromising your walk because you're not gearing your music towards a Christian audience. That's not, it's like we put and that's why I was saying earlier about it's very dogmatic in this space, unfortunately, and it's very black and white. And it's just like life isn't like that. There's some people who are gifted in the area of music and are able to make a career out of making music. that doesn't mean that they're gonna be. Look at Daraj. He makes sync music now. He started in CHH, but now he's in the sync licensing field, making music professionally for commercials, TV, movies, and different things like that. And he has a whole music career now in music. And it's just like, does that mean he's compromising his faith because he's a professional musical artist that gets sync licensing? No, that's just his profession now. It's the same way if you were a carpenter or a doctor and that's your profession, are you compromising your faith because you didn't share the gospel with a specific, with each one of your patients? Guess what? You're in a field where you can get in trouble if you do that. That doesn't mean that you can't still pray for your patients. That doesn't mean that you can't still pray with your patients if they're okay with that. Yeah. However, in certain fields, in certain scenarios, there are certain guidelines that you have to follow and that you have to walk through, and that doesn't mean that you're compromising your faith because you're following those guidelines. That's a part of the job. So it's just like it's like we uphold this unhealthy criteria and standard that most regular people, and I say regular people, but I mean regular Christians, aren't even living up to.
Yeah. That's good.
It's
man.
like, oh, you want me to say Jesus 50 times in a song, but you don't even reference Jesus 50 days out of your year. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? More of your conversations are without Jesus than they are with Jesus, but you want me specifically to say it 50 times in a song. I don't even say Jesus 50 times when I'm praying. So why would I say that in music? Like, that doesn't make sense. If I have a relationship with you, when I talk about my wife or I talk to my wife, I'm not saying her name 50,000 times in that conversation.
She know what it is.
She might get she'll get a nickname, she'll get a reference, she'll get a hey, she'll get like it'll be other forms of communication when I'm talking to her. So why, when I approach Jesus, am I having to not act like we don't have a relationship? That doesn't make sense. We have a relationship, so I'm going to communicate with you relationship wise.
Right.
So yeah, sorry, I ain't mean to get on that tangent, but
I ain't mad at it. I'm not mad at it because I feel like some of these things need to be said. Some of these things need to be said. Man, I appreciate you being on the show. I know you have a lot going on. You have a YouTube channel that you're kicking off. That's not going to be CHH exclusive. It's just going to be reaching out to people. You're going to be a believer talking about anime. You're going to be a believer talking about these movies, and y'all come over here and get it. So I appreciate you doing that. Not everybody's going to have a CHH Christian outlet like that, but I appreciate you doing what you're doing. I know you have music on the way. You're dropping stuff with TLS. Feels like at least every other month. Feel like it. So I appreciate you coming on the show today. We're gonna get back to some more music. You mentioned Sean C. Johnson, so we're gonna play a little Sean C. Johnson coming up. The name of the song is 30. This is the Be Positive Music Show, and we will be right back. Peace.
Every day I wake up, drink from a new cup, full of your grace, full of your grace. I'ma need a re-up, gotta get a re-up. Every day, cause I'm lost right now. I'm so lost right now. All these thoughts right now. I'm so